Y'all know that? That bill changed it. It says now the librarian has to tell you what material is being checked out by your child. The LEARNS Act is in here a bunch of times. And I read through this today. It's a ton of good information on the LEARNS Act that people don't. Massive bill, very comprehensive, that people often don't realize all that's in it. There's a big attempt to have the LEARNS Act declared unconstitutional, and they try, I take that back, to get it on the ballot to repeal the LEARNS Act, and that failed several times. And so now the LEARNS Act is being implemented, and folks, just to be real clear, it's going to take 3 or 4 or 5 years to implement all the parts of this. We can't do it all in 1 year. The first part of it is just to get children with special needs taken care of. And then it will expand and include more students and more students. Anybody have any idea how many people have signed up for LEARNS Act qualified? Almost 5,000. Good number. And that's just a very narrow population, but primarily children with special needs, or students who were in schools that were D and F schools. That's the target population right now, about 5,000 of them. And they can qualify those students can qualify for a voucher. You do know that if a private school takes the voucher, they are still required to meet the same requirements as the regular school. You probably hear that a lot, but there's no more requirements. They have special requirements. They don't have to meet them. You can go to a private school and they'll cherry pick their kids. They are cherry picking their kids. You know that in Franklin County we have a private school for children with disabilities that went from about 8 to about 80 in the last couple of years. K-8, I guess they are. They're taking those kids, all with special needs, everyone, and those kids are learning to read and to write, participate like they didn't in their current when they were in school. So, are they cherry picking? Yeah. Is that a bad thing? No. The parents love them, and the kids are succeeding. So, I think the LEARNS Act is a great thing. Again, this has got a lot of material in it. I don't know that this is available. I know it's available online, and I will try to publish that on my website. And you can look up all the legislation that you want. If you have questions, reach out to me. I don't want to just start talking. I don't want to keep you here a long time. Again, the main purpose was to allow people that want to come and hold me accountable, to allow them to do this. So if you want to hold me accountable, now's your time. Go ahead. Yeah, just making light of it, but I hate to do that, but I think it's true that all legislators need to be held accountable. And if there's legislation that you disagree with and don't understand, then we need to take the time to do that. I think this is about the 10th or 12th meeting I've had. I go to businesses, I go to the coffee shop early in the morning, I go to businesses during the day, I meet with the business leaders. I had a meeting this morning at 8 o'clock with several business leaders, working on plans for our city to help our city improve. I hate to ramble, but I'll ramble for a few minutes in case people want to run by. You know that Arkansas State is working right now to bring a special building in a whole new building on steel mill related businesses, engineering. And they will be educating engineers specific for our steel mill and related businesses.
Wow.
We hope that will be up and running in the next year or so. Our steel mills are funding a big part of it. They want to help, and with Arkansas State is very willing. And there are several projects, huge projects. You know, the governor just announced, I wish he'd done it in East Arkansas, but she did it over in Northwest Arkansas, that there will now be the gravel trail. That's a 6-day bike trail that starts out in Northwest Arkansas and it ends up in Jonesboro. Have you all heard that? Big deal. Yeah.
Wow.
I think the governor's going to come on and help us with our trail system. You know, one of the biggest things we need here is to attract high-paying jobs and keep high-paying jobs here in Jonesboro. The governor understands that. She's committed to working with us. We have city leaders committed to working with us. We have filing for state office, city offices in November, almost a little more than 60 days out. So if you know people that want to run for city council, city government, county government, now's the time to be recruiting those people. School boards, huge elections coming up. And we need to be working together and giving those people opportunities to speak up and come forward with projects like that, things like that. Give me a topic you want to hear about, specifically, that you need to learn more about. Jared?
First off, I just want to say I appreciate you doing this because I do know some of the background that the group that you talked about, this was the only format that they would meet you in, but they didn't come here to meet you in. So they still don't feel I feel like they don't think they've got the ideas to confront you with. So they just got name calling. But anyway, the main one thing I wanted to ask about on the LEARNS Act, on the voucher system. Last number I saw was like $6,000 a kid, the educated kid in Arkansas. I'm sure that's higher than that now, because that was a few years ago. Let's say the number to educate a kid in Arkansas is $8,000. Will that voucher return $8,000 to that student? Or will it be $4,000? Will some of that money still go to the public schools?
In other words, you're saying does the money follow the student?
Yes.
So if you pay, I'm going to round the numbers off. So your property tax, you go to school, you pay about $10,000. Now somebody else may pay 9, somebody else may pay 12. Let's just say 10. Of that, a portion of that $10,000, and I'm going to say 3, goes to your public school, and it's not going anywhere. A portion of that goes to the student, and the student can qualify in a voucher for up to, and the number is somewhere between 6 and 7,500 is that number that's available. Maria's looking it up right now. But that money is available for the voucher that you can use for a voucher program. So if a school has 10 students that decide to take the voucher and leave, the school will still keep the $3,000 local property tax, $30,000 that's there. So they have 10 fewer students with $30,000 more money. Now that's the permanent money that's there. Now if the student leaves, they can apply for up to that voucher total of whatever is applicable to their school. And they have to, when they get that money, if they go to an institution, the institution has to certify that that money is being used for an accredited program and accountable for a program similar in outcome to what they would take in the public school. So they can't say, we're going to Florida and this will be my educational trip and we need $5,000 and I've got 5 kids, so I expect $25,000 for us to go to Florida. That can't happen. If you chose to go to a private school here in town, that private school, their curriculum would be certified as meeting standards of testing and accreditation, very similar to the public school. So the accreditation standards have to be similar. It may not be the same accrediting agency, but the accrediting standard has to be similar. And they have to adopt testing protocols that test the same things they do in public school. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Did you find it, Maria?
Not yet.
I just didn't know if they got 100% of the money. Of course, school fund is kind of funny anyway, because a lot of people think, well, I'm getting my money back, and they are to some degree. But then, like somebody like me, I own farmland and real estate, and I don't have any children in the public schools. I don't have any grandchildren, period. So I'm not using the public schools, but I'm funding the public schools.
Thank you very much.
And so, and I'm okay with that. They're going to get some of my money back, what they're going to get. But that's okay because I'm not. The school's getting it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the parents are getting it.
Yeah.
You also hear the refrain, we're going to give money to private schools. Folks are giving money to people. It's their money. They paid the taxes. We're giving their money back to them, and they'll use that money to fund their child's education. So to say that we're giving money to private schools is true in some sense, but it's also not true in some sense also. We're giving the money to people to use. But if you homeschool, for example, you would have to apply, maybe I want to buy a curriculum, and I want to buy the Hillsdale curriculum, and that's what I'm going to teach my child. But the Hillsdale curriculum is not approved by the state. Then if I use the Hillsdale curriculum, I don't get reimbursed for that. I have to use a curriculum that's approved by the state. And then my children are tested according to state protocols. Does that make sense? And if the program that I'm homeschooling and my kids don't meet the standards that they require, then I don't get money next year. So the idea you hear quite often that you're going to have a family of 10 who get $6,000 each, and they're going to go off and teach whatever they want. It's just not true. It's just a fabrication made up to try to hurt what's going on with the learning center. Right,
There are strings attached, that the government strings attached to that money that they're getting?
Is what now?
Are there any government strings attached to that money they're getting? Like, can the government come in and say you have to do critical race or something like that?
Yeah, it's no different than the strings attached to your public school. I mean, you have to follow the procedures pretty much that are happening in public schools. And you may have a specific example, and there are a number of religious schools not taking the money because they don't want to be accountable to the government for test scores primarily. And that's up to them. You could have a portion of your day dedicated to the curriculum that's approved, and a portion of your day dedicated to religious activity, and access part of that money, but not all of it, because the part that you're accessing is not a part of what the state curriculum is. I gotta get some water. Good question. Learner's Act is, what is it, 180 pages or 90 pages or something? There's a lot in it. And again, we're only scratching the surface of it this year. But you know, several states are already doing it. Arizona does it. Florida's doing it. The governor didn't just pick this up and say, I think I'll make up a bunch of stuff, and we'll see how it works. Which is typically how governments do a lot of stuff. But you know, there's a lot of research gone into this, and these programs are working well.
I'm not taking a side in this, I'm just curious. Some of the teachers complaining about the starting salaries for new teachers, and they're saying that's going to leave them out in the cold, you know.
Yeah, great question. So the question that you have to be talking about, you've heard it, that the Learner's Act does not reward teachers who have been teaching for a long time. It rewards new teachers, but it doesn't reward teachers that have been there. It gave $2,000 to every current teacher. So whatever they're making, they make $2,000 more. It gave a huge bump to new teachers, that's very true, in order to encourage more staff to come in. We have a tremendous teacher shortage, so we're trying to recruit more teachers. And now our teacher salary, starting teacher salary, is one of the top in the nation. We also gave 2% per student funding. So you know, the school gets per student funding. We added 2% to that, which is the largest increase we'd ever had in school funding. To help those teachers get the money. One of the big things we did is, as a legislature, there's a school bucket, and we pretty much just take your tax dollars and put money into 2 or 3 buckets for schools. And then schools have it, other buckets they put it down into. Extracurricular, all that goes on. Transportation, remedial courses. They have all kinds of buckets to use. The legislature doesn't necessarily require certain amounts going in there. What the legislature did do, we figured it out that about 70% of the money that we put in that school bucket was used for teacher salaries. About 30% went for other things. now require them to use 80% of that money. And folks, that's a lot of money. A 10% increase in money that will go directly to teacher salaries. That's big. Somebody made the comment, and I hope I'm getting to your question, because there's money in there for those things. Somebody said, well, this happened when I did a show with Felicia with a gentleman who was wanted to keep money in extracurricular activities such as sports. The schools may have to take money that was put in for extracurricular activities and move to pay for teachers. They may have to reallocate their funds. You may not have as much for some things as you do for others, because what's the number one most important thing we're going to do?
Educate.
It's reach. You have schools right here in Jonesboro, elementary schools that you have about 12% of kids proficient in reading. I think the average is like 35% of our kids that are proficient in reading. And the governor has said that's no longer what we're going to do. Our kids are going to read. We're going to put $250,000, $250 million. Sorry, that's a big difference. 250, not in government terms, $250 million into reading and literacy. 250 million. And you know where it's going? To the schools that score the lowest. Now, you might think of that being down the Delta, and that would be true. Jonesboro's in the Delta. We have kids right here that are struggling with reading. And a gentleman said in an interview that they would rather see that money going into sports than into reading. Well, okay, go ahead. But we're going to put the government's money into reading and literacy. That's where it's going to go. And we're going to make sure we get those programs up. So $250 million in there. So if you wanted to change from being a teacher in this subject area, you're going to teach over here, go far. Because that's where the money's going to go. And if other programs suffer, facilities. We spend a ton of money in facilities. Maybe we can't build facilities that have 20-foot ceilings and those kind of things in them, 30-foot ceilings. Maybe we go back to 10-foot, 11-foot, and 12-foot. But we're going to pay for primarily our kids to learn to read and do math. That's the goal. And that's what the governor said we're going to do, and that's what we're going to do. It'll take several years for that to happen. Will there be teachers who have taught for a long time who don't get a salary increase? I don't know how many people are here. I've been in private business for a while. I don't know of a private business that pays for longevity. You may have got a COLA raise every year, and I think it's important that everybody get a COLA raise, cost of living. I think that's important. You may have gotten but for competency and merit raises, the companies I work for never gave merit raises except for merit. And if you had to be able to prove that merit, I'm worth this because I earned this for the company. And the merit for schools will be measured on teacher reading. And if your kids are reading, you'll get a raise. That there's money in, I think it's $10 million in there for competency and improvement there. The governor gave an opening announcement to new teachers that she met with, I think this past week, in literacy. But make no mistake, that's going to happen. And there'll be a lot of focus on getting our kids to read. If you ever find anything in there, I'll find it and I'll post it on the internet. That answers your question. Is there money? Schools got some tough choices. They're at the side, we're going to do this, we're going to pay our teachers. We're going to do this for our kids. Who's the most important thing out there? We got third graders who are reading at 15, 20, 30, 40% proficiency. What are we going to do? We just can't perpetuate that year after year. That's what we're doing.
And don't take this the wrong way. I know teachers say, $50,000. They're afraid they think you got to be a parent to be a teacher. They're afraid of people who just get into teaching money, not because they have passion for teaching kids.
I think that's true. There's a lot of truth to that. And
Can you restate that?
Yeah, but restate it that people don't get into teaching for the money. They get into it because of the love of teaching. Well, I guarantee you, they're getting out of it for money. And we've got people leaving the profession because they can't make enough money to support their family. If you're making $35,000, $40,000, you're a single parent with 2 or 3 kids, that's tough. When you start at $50,000, that's your starting salary. And then if you're on a merit increase and you do a good job, your scores are going up, I think there's several $1 million in there for bonuses to teachers whose children achieve on the proficiency scale. There's a lot of money in there for that. So making a living wage, I think, is really important. I had something else I was going to say on the teacher salary, but that may be one of the most important things we do. You'll never have successful kids if you don't have successful teachers. And if you want to have successful teachers, as we've proven in every other enterprise, you better have high-quality employees. High-quality employees will result in kids learning. How do you get them in there? You pay them a good salary, and they'll produce. I think that's true. We just have done the same thing over and over again for 50 or 60 years, hoping for a new result. It doesn't happen. Where did you give me those water? Yeah.
I got 2 questions, Dan. Number one, does the LEARNS Act, a few years ago it came up with the teachers got really, really poor benefits. The benefits were poor and they were very expensive. And they were not in line with the rest of the state employees. Is the LEARNS Act going to correct that?
I don't think the LEARNS Act does, but I was reading today in the little book that the benefit for teachers, their cost is going to go down, I think, $90. Right. Yeah, about $90 or $100 a year. So rather when everything is going up, health is going up at 20 to 30%, their insurance is going down at about $100 a year, which is a good start.
It's going down $100 a year?
Mm-hmm.
It's not very much.
True.
It's not very much.
True.
Wendy was a paraprofessional, and by the time insurance came out, she was bringing home $800 a month.
Almost $800 in insurance.
At 16 years in service. That's not good when you gotta pay insurance and you gotta take care of your family. So there's got to be a balance. And raises are great. Raises are really great. They deserve it and they need it. But there's got to be some more to go with it. And I know we got to find money from somewhere, and we don't have an empty bucket. I get that. But I was just wondering if there's going to be something to correct.
Well,
that.
I think you address that in 2 ways. One, you got to keep the cost flat or lower, and 2, raise their pay. So if the difference is $800 a month, then how do you increase that? You increase it by raising the pay. And I think districts are going to take a new look at how they pay their paraprofessionals. They're going to have to.
And part 2, is there something in the LEARNS Act that's going to take care of the far left liberal social agendas being pushed into the schools and by the school boards?
Yeah, you have to be more specific than that. We did a lot this session. Now the Athletic Act. Now you have to participate in athletics based upon your work, your sex and work. So that's a separate bill, but that happened. Bathroom, same thing in bathrooms. You have to go to the bathroom of your sex at birth. We passed a bill that says that a teacher has to call you by your given name unless the parent gives you recourse to do something differently. The kid can't go up and say, I'm now identifying as a different gender and I want to be called by a name of a different gender. The teacher can't do that. The teacher has to call you by the name that you give them and the gender that reflects your birth gender. We also, you probably read this in the news that some schools, if a child wants to identify as a different gender, the school's not required to tell the parent. In Arkansas, you have to tell the parent. So they can't do those things. So that isn't in the LEARNS Act, but Arkansas has already gone down that road in a number of ways. Good question.
Thank you.
What I gave you was about the curriculum, the start and
Oh, you lost. You got to play it again.
Maria, you're gonna have to
Okay. So the LEARNS Act, this kind of goes directly with what you're saying. I wouldn't like those guys. The LEARNS Act prohibits a public school teacher, and this also applies to the charter schools and public schools, from providing classroom instruction to students in kindergarten through grade 4 on sexually explicit materials, sexual reproduction, sexual intercourse, gender identity, and sexual orientation. The Act declares an emergency and it went into effect on March 8th. So that's up through 4th grade. I kind of highlighted a couple of pages in there. So, I'll look through there. So, another big bill we passed had to do with criminals. That's folks, one of the biggest things preventing Jonesboro from growing is businesses coming in. One of them is education, two is criminal. Under certain, if you violate certain laws, and there'll be serious laws, it won't be shoplifting, but you're going to spend 100% of your time in prison. So when you have murders, planned out murders, I don't know, what do you call them?
Premeditated.
Yeah. So if you kill somebody intentionally and murder them, you're going to jail for the rest. That's it, for whatever the sentence is. For about 85% of the other crimes, you have probation. I'm sorry, you have to spend 85% of your time in jail. And then if you get out after that, it's based on a point system, and you will be rewarded points to get out. Then it won't be based on what the parole board thinks. So the governor is very serious about what's going on with crime. That's a big deal for Jonesboro. You know what businesses look at before they come to Jonesboro, among some of the most? You want me to move a little bit so you get the sun out of your eyes, everybody? Does it help if I come down here at all?
Yes.
I can't see, but maybe you can. The biggest thing businesses look for to come in here, of course, is education and crime, tax rates. Where are all the businesses? Where are people fleeing? What's the profile of the community where people flee and people move to? Profile number one, no income tax. They're fleeing states that have a high income tax, and they're running the states with low income tax. So Arkansas has been taking bites out of that a little bit at a time. There will very likely, don't tell anybody, look at this, they'll very likely be having a special session pretty soon to cut taxes again. And then we'll do it again in likely in January of 2024, cut again. We're working hard to cut the income tax. And people say, well, we need money for, and you fill in the blank. The very first people that we reimburse to cut taxes are people who pay. They're first in line to get the money. And then other programs are in line down from that. The first in line is people get more money. So we'll probably have a special session very soon. I think in September, maybe October to do that. But that's what businesses are looking for. And if we want businesses, when businesses open up, what do they bring in? Jobs. You have a homeless population that truly needs attention. What's the best thing? Jobs. Bring in jobs, increase the revenue, all tax revenue. It helps the entire community. And of course, education, good schools. So if our schools and our children are achieving at 35% literacy, 20% literacy, that's not what they need. Whether they can play sports, or do drama, or play an instrument, it'd be great. But they've got to be able to read, they've got to be able to do math, they've got to be able to get a job. That's big time. Anything else?
I've heard the rumor that eventually Arkansas might do away with
That's right.
tax.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's Nebraska that has no income tax, little to no sales tax, and little to no property tax. Now, where they're getting their money to do anything, I don't know. But it's worth looking into. Is how do you generate money? And I don't know if you have to have money to take care of our streets and do the things we have to do to have our universities. But I think you're going to see a real realignment of priorities. What are you, the citizens, willing to pay for? What are you not going to pay for? I pulled up we have a big hearing tomorrow in Joint Performance Review, and it's about Central Arkansas Water, who, when we ran Senate Bill 71, ran some political ads against the bill, white supremacists, a bunch of other stuff that I didn't think was quite appropriate, and I wanted to hear why. So their chairman is coming in to speak tomorrow about why they can be a PAC of sorts or a lobbyist group. And I understand we have our colleges lobby and other public entities lobby for and against legislation, fine. If they want to do that, okay. But the public needs to know how you're spending their consumer money. So if you're Central Arkansas Water and you're providing water for thousands, tens of thousands of people in Central Arkansas, and you're collecting fees, how do you spend it? To kill Senate Bill 71? Okay. Do they put on there that we're trying to kill the bill as they send these emails, paid for by your tax dollar? You know, they spent $30,000 to support the Chamber of Commerce in Arkansas, the Central Arkansas Chamber. $30,000. $5,000 to various organizations that they donate to nonprofits. Central Arkansas Water spent $118,000 of those folks' money to donate to nonprofits. And my estimation, they ought to be spending that money on reducing the fees for the consumers of Central Arkansas Water. Now, how much does Jonesboro Water Association spend on it? I'll find out tomorrow. I want to know what your dollar is going to pay for, and are they cherry picking certain nonprofits that they think are better than others and building up those nonprofits at your expense? They'll be out tomorrow too on my website. I'll put who they're donating to. It's really interesting. Central Arkansas Library donated $5,000 to the Trial Lawyers Association. What does that have to do with what they're trying to do for us? So I think that's pretty extensive. And Senator Hammer and I are going to meet tomorrow. We're going to be investigating a lot of water associations and public entities to see who they're donating the money to.
I wonder if all those consumers know that they're doing that. I mean, if it's their money, if they wanted to donate to something, they would donate themselves. Why?
You think? Yeah. And that would be my, as a legislator, and I talked to the Bureau of Legislative Research today and said to start thinking about this, because are there things that may be worth donating to? I don't know. There may be. I can't think of why, because my preference would be like yours, let the people donate. You just lower my bill. And I'll have more. But if there's other considerations out there, then let's hear why. But we'll hopefully see legislation on that next session. Anybody else questions? Thoughts? Concerns? Well, what time is it?
Recognize
Left,
elected officials, Dad.
Pardon?
Recognize our elected officials.
Yeah, elected officials. There you go. Elected officials. We'll recognize you. Go ahead.
I'm Wes Eddington. I'm your tax collector.
Well, you won't go many places where the tax collector gets around the law. Way to go. Other elected officials? Brad, I know you're running. You've announced you're running. So go ahead and say what you're running for.
Just stand up and do that. I just feel like I need to be back on the House floor making decisions for our district. And now the new district is number 32. So I've announced I've got a fundraiser coming up at Ron's Catfish on September 14th. I'd like to see everybody turn out for that, but I want to represent you. I'm a bulldog when I have to be, and I'm gentle as a dove the rest of the time.
Okay, no campaign speeches, just introduction.
That's it.
There you go.
You turned me loose.
Anybody? I can rein you in, too. anybody else? Well, again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. You know, we, as elected officials, it's up to you. We're not elected without you. And, of course, my good friend here, Felicia, that puts me on her, what's it called?
101 with Felicia Johnson.
Felicia, if you're not watching that, she has a lot of interesting guests on. Good Facebook, and she's not afraid to ask stuff. And I appreciate it. I'll make a comment in closing. This originated because I had some people who openly challenged me to have a town hall open for everybody. Folks, I can't think of a meeting I've had that isn't open for everybody. If I have coffee shop in the morning, come to the coffee shop. You can't meet a greater group of people than sit around and give you a hard time at the coffee shop. And believe me, they give you a hard time, regardless of who you are or what you do. I go to businesses. I've said many times, if you want to meet with me or a group of people, all you have to do is call and say, Dan, we're a group of people. We've got 5 people, 2 people, 100 people that want to meet, and we want to talk about some issues. Here they are. Okay, I'll arrange to meet with you. That's been true since I've been elected. And I've met with some groups that had some very serious concerns and disagreements. But that's what we do. And I'm open to do that anytime. So the group headed by what they call themselves the radical left progressive Democrats challenged me to have an open format where people could come and talk. And I opened it up to them and said, look, you come also. Not a debate format. You're welcome to stand up and talk about what the radical left progressive believe in. Just come on down and talk. They declined. It was too hot. It was too late. Wrong day. A lot of reasons. So this is an opportunity for you, the public, to show and we'll have some more. I think this is a really neat location. We're just going to have to put a sunblock up over there, hang it off the roof and block the sun from coming in.
Yeah, I didn't know this was here.
Yeah, a lot of people did. But it's great. It's great publicity. Cars driving by all the
There you
time.
go.
We'll have an event here probably early October where I make a formal announcement when I'm running again. Again, the people will sign up in November, filing date, November 8th, I think. 8th or 9th is the official filing date for all parties. The election primary, I think, is until late. We have a late primary in 2024, then the election in 2025, late November 2024. A lot of stuff going on. We really need candidates to run the school board and local offices. It's huge. And you're probably going to hear some announcements about people running for some of our local offices in the next 2 weeks. And I'm excited about it. Be glad to meet with you anytime for any reason.
And I'll tell you, I wish the legislature would consider moving primary every election year in March. Because it gets confusing. 1 year it's March and 1 year it's May.
Well, I agree. I've heard all the reasons a bunch of times. I don't know if I know all. Cameron, introduce yourself. One more time, so people here that weren't here.
Yeah, so I'm Cameron Bainey. I'm Senator Tom Collins' field rep. I won't hold you accountable, but I'll vouch for you that he was very willing to meet with me anytime. And I know that Arkansas Legislative Council is going on right now, so it's full force right now. So I know they're incredibly busy. But Senator Sullivan was very open to meet with me anytime. So yeah.
You know, I'll brag it just a little bit. I had a group of students at Fayetteville that wanted to meet with me. Democrats and Republicans. They were concerned about Senate Bill 71. I think it's 71. And they wanted to know how it affected them. And I drove from after session, drove to Fayetteville, met with those students, probably 30 of them, drove back to Little Rock that same night because they just called and said, we want to meet, and this is when we can do it. Met with a group of students and teachers at UCA during session and took a pretty good chewing from both of them. We just agreed, fine, that's what we're supposed to do. So for people that say you're not available, you're not accessible, Felicia, how many things have we done with you?
Way too many.
There you go. And people call in and text in, ask questions, very open. Done several KLAK interviews where people, introduce yourself, tell me about that.
Again, Zakel, founder and general manager, KLK 102.5 FM. Some of y'all probably remember all of the library board meetings. We live stream each and every one of them. You usually see me like you do now with my phone streaming town halls, different events. Several of you have already met. Got to be friends, so just thank you for having me here, Senator.
And very open with both parties, anywhere, anytime. If he's free, he'll show up. That makes a difference where or when. He's there video and recording. I'll give you one more update. Senate Bill 372 is library bill. So what happens next? So the part of the path, part of it there was an injunction not to let it start. So it's on hold, parts of it are. The part about going to your GPs and county judge to appeal, that's the part that's on hold. We're appealing that to the 8th District Court of Appeals. And the 8th District will make a decision. Whatever they do will depend on what I do next. To tell you what's going on, there are a couple of counties working right now with the JPs have done a good job in some counties of taking back their authority. They've always had it. They fail to exercise it. And JPs can do a lot. JPs in one district, I think it's in 1978, the JPs gave the library board the ability to hire the library director and control of the budget. Now your tax dollar goes directly from my pocket and your pocket to the treasurer, to the board of court, to the library. Nobody can change that amount. That's set by law. What the law can change is how that money is spent and who has oversight and review process over it. So we have a couple of counties, one's moved further than others, but a couple of counties, their JPs are changing their local law. They're going to hire the library director. They're going to hire, have oversight over how those dollars are spent. They're going to have an audit once a year of the library budget. And they're taking back control, which the JPs should do. One of the parts of the Judge Brooks, I think it was, his decision said, and he said in his written opinion, that the library board, once appointed, has final authority over everything the library does. The Constitution, Article 55 of the Arkansas Constitution, says the county judge has that authority. So there's certainly some discrepancy over who has the authority to do what. But certainly the county judge is a top governmental agency. And if they're not acting that way, what that means could be every commission and every appointed board in Craighead County, there's a bunch of them, would be independent of the county judge. And they could tell the county judge what they're going to do, and the county judge would have no authority over it. I think that's wrong. The judge apparently didn't think so. He had narrow authority there, but I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing the county judges and foreign courts push back, not because of the library, but because of the oversight that JPs and county judges have. They're the ultimate authority in your county government, and they're elected. And who can tell them what to do? Certainly not, I wouldn't think, any appointed board. Now, you know, the head executive, governors do it all the time. They terminate people underneath them. Commissioners, heads of departments, they just say, you're done, I'm new, you're done, bye, I'll appoint somebody new. That's not been done at the county level. And so there's no precedent standing over what would happen if that happened. But I think you're going to see county courts and county judges going, wait a minute, we've got an airport authority. What if the airport authority decides we're going to repave the runway? Or what if they're going to give us all a raise? Or what if we're all going to go on a convention trip to somewhere? That has to be approved by the county judge, not an independent appointed group of people. So the 71, 81 did a lot in that area of helping JPs and other government entities take a real look at what their power was and how they're going to restrict it. Yes.
Is Craighead taking the steps to do that as well?
think there are several that are, whether this our group is or not, I don't know why.
JP, get rid of the library board, Sullivan.
Well, every county has their own rules. And every county commission government would have to look at what their rules and their laws are and act according to what their laws say. So the laws in Saline County, for example, the court, the JP, the judge looked at their laws and they're going to amend that law, 1978 law, and take back some of their authority and power. Maybe not take it back, but to simplify specifically what it is. If you have questions, we're going to straighten that. Good question. I don't know what the law is. Well, it's all based on city and county law, not state law. So they would have to amend city and county law, not state law.
Commentary is a different seriously with more paint. And if anybody thinks about it, wait a minute, that's next for day in there, it's a day longer this year than it is from filing the spring because Veterans Day falls there in college.
Okay. I've kept you all overtime. Thank you. Bye. Where the labor paper are